My name is Spooky Deer, and I am on a journey to count every war crime in every Call of Duty. And my friends, this is the one we have all been waiting for. After a brief departure into the world of modern conflicts with radar and night vision and nuclear bombs, we are back with our boots on the ground in a global conflict. A world at war. There is going to be so much to talk about in what is potentially the grittiest and most brutal entry in the entire franchise. But you have to let me do some housekeeping here first. I know a lot of you have been excited for this video in particular. However, you are now signing an irreversible blood oath that you will stick with me through the next 17 games as I go through the rest of Call of Duty in release order. Because the series addresses the Call of Duty franchise as a whole, I am applying a standardized, current international understanding of war crimes to all of the games, regardless of the era or realism of their setting. So yes, while the Soviet Union never ratified the Geneva Convention, and while a lot of our legal precedent around war crimes was born from World War II, I just am not looking at it that way for the sake of my time and sanity. These videos are being made for edutainment and discussion-provoking purposes. I don't claim to be perfect or exhaustive, and while interpretation of the law is subjective, I will clearly and definitively state that I am not a lawyer. Feedback, however, is welcome, and I am continually learning more and fine-tuning the series, and you are all a very critical part of that process. We talk about and depict war, violence, and other potentially upsetting things in the series. Please take care of yourselves, and please never mistake my tone or delivery as being dismissive at the severity of the topic at hand. I will also note that the violence increases tenfold in World at War, and while it is often hyper-exaggerated and stylized, it's still brutal and gross. Consider that when you're watching. World at War is a huge step up for Treyarch's work on the series, and it has also been, without comparison, the most requested video and topic in the history of my channel. But I'm not afraid of peaking early. I chose the order. In fact, I'm so unafraid of prematurely shooting my wad that there is an even longer director's cut of this video available ad-free to members on YouTube, Patreon, or Ko-fi. Thank you for being here, and now, let's count every war crime in Call of Duty World at War. World at War has an aesthetic like no other Call of Duty, and the mission intro infographics are one of the main things that have stuck in my mind almost 20 years later. They're bold, visually arresting, and they get a lot of detailed information across in a very economical amount of time. Starting the game, we are given the SparkNotes/TLDR of World War II, introducing the two major Axis powers that will be fighting, Nazi Germany and the Empire of Japan. Italy, as always, remains forgotten and overlooked. I appreciate that World at War at least pays some lip service to Japan's expansionist aggression into China that predates the start of World War II, and that's also often overlooked, and holy shit! Well, World at War easily sets a record for the fastest appearing war crime in the series at just 22 seconds, while also literally just showing us real footage of an actual war crime with Japanese soldiers executing bound prisoners and burying a group of civilians alive. Now, I don't think I need to tell you why that's against international law, because in just a second, the intro is going to show us Pearl Harbor.
A date which will live in infamy.
And Pearl Harbor in and of itself can and should be considered a violation of international law, as in retaliation to the US levying trade and diplomatic sanctions in response to Japan's aggression in China, they in turn staged a devastating surprise attack on the US Pacific Fleet while it was moored in Pearl Harbor, and before any actual declaration of hostilities. Because the United States was unaware a state of military conflict existed, the surprise attack at Pearl Harbor was later found to be both a war crime and a crime against peace in the trials following the Japanese surrender in 1945. I know, spoilers. Pearl Harbor tore the US out of its self-focused isolationist state of being, and suddenly the entire country had mobilized for a global conflict, fighting both the Japanese and Nazi aggression across the planet. The US campaign will focus on what I feel is the woefully underrepresented Pacific theater.
There comes a time in the affairs of men when they must prepare to defend not their homes alone, but the tenets faith and humanity.
We're dropped into the dungarees of Private Miller, a Marine raider sent on a reconnaissance and diversionary raid on a small island called Macon.
Macon Atoll. Little more than sand, trees, and a small Japanese military base.
And what are we making as we assume control of Miller? Well, we're making some more war crime counters on the board. That is such a stupid joke. I write this. God. We fade into consciousness only to see an angry Japanese officer in the foreground smoking a cigarette, and in the background, 2 Marines bloodied and tied to posts in stress positions, and a third being beaten with a bamboo, not Nintendo, switch. We're all bound, unarmed, and unable to defend ourselves, making every Marine here hors de combat, and the beating constituting torture while they try and extract information from us.
Don't tell him a fucking thing.
Private Pyle here is a badass and admirably stands up to the abuse. For that, he loses an eye in horrific fashion. And as someone who is already blind in one eye, this scene has always made my skin crawl. No sooner has Pyle caught his breath, only to then be brutally executed.
Go to hell.
As he bleeds out, it seems that our clock is going to be punched too, but just in the nick of time, Corporal Roebuck, played by an outstanding Kiefer Sutherland at the peak of his Jack Bauer fame, K-bars that soldier in the spine.
Miller, you're okay.
As he dusts us off, I can't help but think, much like in Call of Duty 3, how much of a shame it is that we live while other Marines die here just for spectacle. Sergeant Sullivan slaps a dead guy's helmet on our head, hands us a famously shitty Nambu pistol, and we are off to the races in attacking this Japanese outpost, malnourishment, and torture be damned. We shoot and stab our way through the burning huts, stealing various Japanese weapons as we run low on ammo. As we run up a ramp, a soldier, lit aflame from an artillery barrage, bursts from a building and starts struggling with a certain Private Ryan.
I don't know anything about Ryan, it's just a name. But if finding him so he can go home, if that earns me the right to get back to my wife, well then, that's my mission.
We save him, and if this had been my first time playing this mission, we'd have enjoyed an achievement pop. But instead, we fight onward to catch another vignette of a Marine blasting away at an unarmed Japanese officer with his 1911. Now, while we don't see the events leading up to this, it's clear to me that it's meant to demonstrate early on that people on both sides of a conflict are capable of brutality. Clearly, our corporal here wasn't feeling particularly in danger as his BAR is slung over his shoulder and he's choosing to use his sidearm, firing well past the point of necessity and gaining himself some sense of retribution. This entire first mission sets the tone for the brutality and chaos that US forces face in the Pacific. Even in quieter moments as we move through the jungle, there's tension and suspicion. Approaching a small shrine in the jungle, one of our Marines scouts ahead only to get caught in an explosive booby trap.
Looks like a temple or some shit.
And while booby traps aren't always illegal, this instance certainly is for its presence around a religious shrine, both masking the intent and naturally making it indiscriminate against any civilians that could be approaching it. The alerted soldiers bonsai charge us and we quickly kill them, which is a typical outcome for these types of attacks, and we continue moving through the jungle. We rush to support a fresh landing of Marines and rapidly clear out both a spotting tower and a machine gun nest. With more reinforcements in tow, we keep working our way towards the ammo depot.
Listen up. I want to get through the rest of this quick and clean. You hear me? Quick and clean.
Our squad stumbles upon a scene of dead Japanese troops, but we're confused because we're the only allied troops on the island. No one should have killed these men yet. No sooner are suspicions raised than a flare launcher gets tripped, blinding us and setting off another ambush, which was pulled off by way of, you guessed it, a war crime. Playing dead is an example of perfidy, which is expressly outlawed as by removing the trust of the hors de combat protections, it runs the risk of more unnecessary loss of life. Fighting is intense, but we're able to work our way forward through the force of Japanese troops to the ammo depot that we've been hunting for.
Compound's just ahead. Keep moving.
The gates to the base are locked, so, thinking fast, we send a fuel truck barreling down the hill to crash through the gate and explode.
That's our extraction point.
We go with Roebuck to plant the charges in the ammunition storage area, blasting through waves of Japanese reinforcements. Mercifully, rather than a dreaded QuickTime event, we have already graduated to press F to blank, and we get the dynamite set. As we run from our untimed charges, a stray explosion rings our bell, and in our malnourished, recently tortured state, we start reeling down towards the rubber boats. A man who studied the blade. leaps out from a window and slashes across our entire torso. We'll survive this with no further comment, by the way, and Sullivan saves us by bringing a gun to a sword fight.
You've studied the blade. I've also studied the blade.
We're pulled onto a boat and escape the island as the ammo depot and a bunch of stuff that we didn't set bombs on explodes. Two years later, with our gaping katana wound glued back together, we are given a crash course on the insane amount of combat our unit has been in, from Guadalcanal to Bougainville, and now we are moving into the controversial landing on the island of Peleliu. Peleliu will take place of a typical D-Day mission, but we start off in a landing craft all the same. Triumphant music swells as we begin our approach, only for the tone to rapidly shift from confidence to dread as our air support and surrounding landing craft start getting blown to pieces.
The hell? Is that one of ours?
Fuck. East Ridge. There's a 200mm on the point. Stay with it, Marine.
Sullivan tries to keep the new Marines calm, but our landing craft gets stuck on the reef.
Drop the rail. That boat can sail around us anytime.
It's the coral! We're stuck on the...
Koopman's death here has haunted me since I first played this game at the ripe age of 15, but we don't have time to dwell on that as we're blown overboard and into the surf. Sullivan pulls us up from drowning and into the chaos of the beach landing.
Jojo's got a defensive line dug in just beyond the tree line. We got heavy MG fire tearing up the beach.
In order to advance, we call in a rocket barrage on the forward line of Japanese machine guns. The rockets silence the machine gun emplacements, and we push up past our dead comrades floating in the surf to the tree line. Clamber over the wall and are met with the immediate, brutal consequences of calling in artillery. Half a dozen dazed, mortally wounded Japanese soldiers are stumbling around in the wreckage of their emplaced positions. Many are horrifically maimed and try to crawl away, while others stumble around, still holding their rifles but not reacting to our presence. Roebuck gives the order to put them down, and we oblige, not knowing if they could still be hostile, and well into the point of World War II, where the US had plentiful examples that Japanese soldiers rarely surrendered peacefully. We quickly encounter another machine gun nest, and Roebuck calls for a flamethrower to clear it out. Okay, so here's the deal. I was hoping that we'd get a little bit more time before I had to address this, but World at War loves fire, so we're just going to have to get this out of the way early. In the modern methodology we're using to look at these games, use of incendiary weapons like flamethrowers, Molotov cocktails, and napalm are generally not allowed for anti-personnel use, because if you want to really talk about unnecessary suffering, burning someone to death with fuel that sticks to their bodies that can't be easily extinguished sounds like a textbook definition to me. Flamethrowers are very good at dealing with in-place positions, and fire generally can do a lot around area control and eliminating cover, but at an extreme cost. I will say that especially during the World War II era, there was some heavy mental gymnastics propaganda going on where arguments were made that fire was a quick, clean, and painless kill.
Are you sick of your mortal enemy holing up in some foxhole, avoiding your righteous anger? Well, do I have a product for you? The discerning soldier uses fire. Yes, fire, your wartime pal. Worried about that pesky Geneva Convention? Don't be. With fire, your enemy's death will be quick, clean, and painless.
Oh God, I'm on fire! Ow, it hurts so much.
Fire. It's more than your enemy deserves.
That feels like some bullshit made up in a stateside governmental office to ease the consciences of people at home because, like, obviously, burning hurts. So again, regardless of what they cope their way through World War II with, I will be marking fire kills as war crimes. And I'm sorry in advance, but they happen a lot in this game, and sometimes all you're given to work with is a flamethrower. Don't try to go overboard, but this is gonna be a whole thing regardless of what I do. Moving through the Japanese trenches, we all get stun-locked as a lone soldier runs over to a tree and starts climbing up to a concealed platform. This guy was a little late trying to conceal himself, and we essentially firing squad him until he falls and is caught by his harness rope.
Good shot, killer.
Stepping into the grassy field in front of us, we are ambushed by a lot more soldiers dressed up as bushes, but a point-blank bayonet charge didn't really help. Approaching the main bunker facility, Roebuck and I run down into a tunnel to flank the soldiers, once again pinning us down. During the first part of the tunnel, we meet a wounded Japanese soldier sitting on the ground, holding his wounds and reaching out into the distance. He's unarmed and he appears to be out of the fight, but if you do wait long enough, he 3D prints a pistol out of the mud in front of him and aims it at you, putting him back in the fight and making shooting him okay. After facing our moral conundrum and while trying to leave the tunnel, Roebuck and I are charged by another soldier. We don't shoot him fast enough, so I get tossed into a do or die button press event, and to Roebuck's credit, he is trying to shoot the bayonet guy, but he has iframes until I push the bayonet aside and stab him myself. It's kind of wild because these bonsai charge moments can still really put the fear in you, even if the window to hit the button prompt is big enough to not really risk any consequence. Rounding a corner, we find another soldier leaned up against the wall, but he pulls and primes a grenade, killing himself rather than being captured. Up on the second floor of the bunker, we take over some mounted machine guns and lay into an enemy mortar pit to reduce the fire on the beach. After dealing with the infantry, a few more rocket barrages get rid of the handful of Japanese tanks whose makes and models I will not dare to ponder. We've secured the landing zone and our squad regroups back in the bunker. Feeling a little more hopeful and triumphant, the mission is clearly ending when Sullivan is ambushed and mortally stabbed with a katana, and the officer that killed him glitches out, which wholly undercuts the emotional impact of losing our beloved sergeant. Okay, pause. Now, I bet you all thought that I forgot about the ray gun that you can find in this mission, didn't you? Didn't you? And, well, I sort of did. Hold on. The ray gun. I had recorded footage of finding and using this in this level, but then I lost that recording before I started writing, and it left my mind until I was streaming World at War here and over on my Twitch channel. Getting the ray gun in the campaign is actually pretty easy, and it's a really fun sneaky Easter egg that has now become one of the most iconic bits of Call of Duty lore. It's this puddle, you stand in this puddle, and then you go to this puddle, and then this puddle, and then this puddle. Wait, did I do it? But the question that we're all asking right now is, wait, if the flamethrower is a war crime, the friggin' laser gun? Yeah. Now, I don't consider the ray gun canon, so I won't be adding any marks for its use or potential use in the game, but yeah, I think the ray gun technically would be if it was real. It's a weird doohickey that shoots globby pew-pewy shots. Pew pew, pew 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 pew. What is presumably concentrated radiation that kills your enemies. It's unconventional, and it's also probably really painful and not even of this world. So if we ever catch up to the little green man that left this thing here, he's going in the gulag. Okay, thank you so much. Sorry that I forgot it. Back to the normal canonical parts of the video. With Sullivan dead, Roebuck is now in charge of our squad, and we are tasked with moving further into Peleliu to capture and secure the airfield, as its heavily fortified anti-air emplacements are keeping the Marines from leveraging their air support. We begin our approach to the airfield, lamenting Sullivan and creeping through the deep jungle. Our squad configuration is completely out of whack, with 3 riflemen and 2 dudes lugging BARs, but I'll give it a pass since Treyarch is trying to get in some weapon variety into our hands. We encounter the rest of our squad that moved ahead, investigating the wreckage of a Navy Corsair.
Poor bastard must have been shot down this morning.
Fuselage is still smoking. Check for survivors.
He's all snarled up on something. Shit! Grenade!
Let's go back and look at that explosion for a second. The pilot's body was left in the plane and intentionally booby-trapped with explosives with the hope that it would lure in American Marines to cause further casualties. Booby-trapping wounded or dead soldiers is a violation of international law, and while these types of tactics are prevalent throughout warfare, it certainly constitutes playing dirty by taking advantage of compassion. And speaking of devious traps, there is one very memorable weapon in World at War that doesn't feature in the campaign, but it is worth talking about right now because it is booby trap adjacent. Do you all remember our as of yet unnamed Claymore? He's a friendly and cuddly depiction of a very brutal landmine variation. Well, courtesy of my wife's talents, meet Bouncing Betty, one of the most devious landmines ever created. Betty only appears in World at War's multiplayer as a piece of special equipment that you can get via a perk selection. But when a Bouncing Betty is stepped on, unlike a regular landmine, it doesn't detonate right away. Instead, as the victim's foot moves off the trigger, a spring deploys that launches the mine into the air right at Beans and Frank's height before it explodes.
Oh, have a bouncing Betty! You idiot! That was the dumbest kill. I got a fun bouncing Betty for you.
Now, bouncing Betties were often able to inflict multiple casualties since they would detonate in the middle of troop formations. And obviously, the use of these counting as a war crime because I hate landmines and because the typical areas wounded constitute extra unnecessary suffering. I don't want my dick and balls blown off by a landmine. Now, I expect to cover Call of Duty's multiplayer situations more on an as-needed basis, as typically most of the content overlaps with the campaigns. But please let me know in the comments if there are any specific situations in multiplayer Call of Duty that you want to see covered, as my memory's pretty foggy around a lot of these games. Anyways, we deal with the ambush, but not without sustaining a lot of casualties. Our mission remains, so we push ahead with Roebuck and Polanski. No sooner does our heart rate start calming down when we step into another Japanese ambush. With those bush-bearing bastards also dealt with, we finally reach the first line of Japanese emplacements and put grenades onto the artillery pieces.
Go! Go!
The enemy bunkers have been torn up but are still full of troops, and with the prime flanking position we found, it's up for us to clear through all of them. Emerging from the first bunker, a Marine flamethrower operator steps in and sweeps the next line of enemy positions. No visible war crimes though, since my elite gaming skill and 34 minutes of playtime in aim labs means that I actually already took care of the threats. But it doesn't take long for the flamethrower to earn his keep as he moves up to a heavily fortified machine gun nest and consumes an entire semi and some troops in his fire. Under our covering fire, the flamethrower rushes the bunker only to meet the fate of so many operators and dies abruptly before finishing his job. Luckily, despite being riddled with machine gun fire, this operator didn't catastrophically explode, so we get promoted to firemen and rush to grab the weapon ourselves. This is the first of many instances where World at War puts you, without too much agency, behind the stream of war crimes it intends to depict. The heat from the flames cooks off the bunker's ammunition and opens a hole in the wall for us to continue through. I appreciate that World at War forces you to bear witness to the immediate effects of your actions, as we have to step past the still burning and suffering troops in our wake, only to then make us continue the process over and over again. It's almost desensitizing. Out of the bunker, we get back to the larger Marine force assaulting the airfield. On the last stretch before cresting the hill, more ghillie-adorned enemies emerge from the grass, only to be consumed and flushed out by the stream of sin from our flamethrower. Stream of Sin was my nickname in high school. Finally, airfield-looking buildings are visible, and we join the assault with a ton of Marines. No sooner do we join those Marines than we witness the fate of so many other flamethrower operators. We tuck our tank further behind us as we try to find an angle into that fortified building. We get our hands on an authentic World War II noob tube, and we start lobbing away at the machine gun nests and sniper emplacements until we get things clear enough to go back to Old Faithful. Standing on the second level of the building, the full airfield is finally in sight, and with wreckage everywhere, Japanese soldiers swarming to stave off the Marine attack. We have armor support backing us up, and fortunately, the tanks smack a truck full of reinforcements before they can become an issue. The Japanese have tanks as well that, in turn, kind of surprisingly, take out some of our Shermans. With some relief, I trade my flamethrower for a bazooka, and I get a hat trick of tank kills so that my squad can clear the remaining buildings and finally destroy the AA guns.
Nice work, Marines. Let's give Major Gordon the good news.
With the last gun unmanned, things seem to be wrapping up for this mission when World at War pulls a Call of Duty 3 and fakes us out into defending against a counterattack.
Japanese reinforcements coming in north of the airfield. Request immediate air support.
Wave after wave of enemy soldiers in armor push at the airfield, and I use the emplaced anti-air guns to chew through the assaulting force. Now, Spooky from a few months ago would have counted using this AA gun outside of its intended purpose as war crimes, both as a comment on the horrors and our acceptance of war, and for some meme editing and pacing. But I have learned and grown during the creation of this series, and I am choosing to separate my distaste from the reality of how international law is written and determined. Without your feedback and genuine engagement, this series would not be taking the form or have the success that it does, so thank you so much for your comments and for subscribing if you like the content. Navy planes, now unimpeded by AA fire, swoop in and drop napalm on the enemy reinforcements, horrifically ending the counterattack and ending the mission for real this time. We're taking a break from palm trees and bonsai charges and getting thrown back into the horrors of the Eastern Front in Stalingrad.
The rotten cancer of the fascist Reich ravages Europe like a plague.
Gary Oldman's narration and performance in general as Reznov goes insanely hard. And we can actually just let this intro roll, as just like in the intro to the Marine campaign, real, actual war crimes are shown in the archival footage.
The relentless drive into our motherland steals the lives of men, women, and children alike. The arrogance of their leaders is matched only by the brutality of their soldiers. These are the darkest days of the Nazi occupation of Stalingrad.
The intro map zooms in and we take control of Dmitry Petrenko. We're regaining consciousness surrounded by carrion birds and the corpses of dozens of Soviet troops, dead and dying in a real, but dramatized, Barmely fountain. A column of German troops is calmly advancing past the fountain, and some Nazis step out of formation to execute dying Russians and mutilate those that are already dead. Through sheer luck and a healthy dosage of plot armor, we survive and start to crawl past the cooling corpses of our comrades, only for Gary Oldman's Reznov to make his presence known to us, leading us into another 1-to-1 Call of Duty enemy at the gates overlap.
You son of a bitch.
Reznov has been on a days-long mission trying to assassinate the fictional Nazi general in Stalingrad, Heinrich Amsel.
Do what I say, and we can avenge this massacre.
And it's up to us to join the hunt and be the trigger puller, since Reznov had his fingers blown off at some earlier point.
You will do it for me. Take my rifle and watch the road.
We actually lay eyes on Amsel right away and get a rundown of his resume, which includes purposefully killing civilians.
He is responsible for the cold-blooded murder of men, women, and children.
But we want to kill Amsel and then also live to see another day, so we hold our fire for the meantime and instead pick off his trailing guards. This entire level is just good and totally informed by Hollywood and all gillied up, but there's part of me that actually finds Vendetta as a mission a little bit more memorable.
Wait until the bombers are directly overhead. The sound of the engines will drown out your shot. Ready? Shoot! Now! Again!
We kill the first batch of troops and then follow Reznov through the destroyed city.
Jot. Armored patrol. We must find another route.
I'm actually having trouble cutting down this mission for pacing purposes because I just think that the atmosphere and Oldman's performance are so outstanding.
For days, I have crept through shadows like a rat. This place once echoed with conversations of friends and lovers. No longer. Mark my words, comrade. One day things will change. We will take the fight to their land, to their people, to their blood. This way.
As we keep moving through the city to find an angle on Amsel, we get pinned down by a German sniper hiding in the ruins of a building.
Sniper! Get inside now!
But, using Reznov as bait, we quickly counter-snipe him,
Good hunting!
and we continue forward. A German patrol with a 4th Tiger tank spots us because of a poorly timed grandfather clock.
They found us! We need to leave now!
And after spending multiple missions being the ones throwing fire at enemy soldiers, we get a taste of being on the other side of it as the Nazis try to burn down the building around us with their own flamethrowers even though they're actually just using models of American M2 flamethrowers instead of the German-made Flammenwerfer 41. The building is collapsing around us, but Reznov ensures that we stay alive, and we leap out of the second floor into an alley, very fairly knocking the remaining wind out of us. As we try to fill our collapsed diaphragm with air, we see a lineup of dead, unarmed Soviet troops up against a wall, clearly executed. We've only just taken those horrors in when a handful of Nazis roll around the corner and their flamethrower guy rolls in like the goddamn doof warrior from Mad Max Fury Road. Like, what is he doing? But Larry, Moe, and Curly want to war crime us, only for plot armor to intervene with a squad of Russians mowing them down, and this flamethrower soldier, fortunately not catastrophically exploding like every single other one in the game. Our saviors are pushing an assault on a communications post, so we tag in to provide sniper support for them. In position, Reznov instructs us to target the flamethrower troops specifically so that we can cause a fiery explosion and kill more troops with one shot. While in reality the explosion wouldn't be realistic, I think this does actually count as intentionally using an incendiary weapon to kill people, so I'm counting it. Which actually means that I miscounted some stuff later on because I forgot that I was going to do that, so that's going to take some extra counting, something to be aware of. So sorry, Nonder. We support this assault for some time, blow up some more flamethrowers, and then we need to flank for a new angle as the Nazis retreat. During that flank, we get our hands on a 46-pound PTRS anti-material rifle that Dmitri is somehow able to shoulder and fire like it's a Mosin Nagant. I feel like we're built like that Russian guy from Rocky. It's insane. Now, this gun essentially becomes the 50 cal of World at War, and before you all get worried about me counting kills with this thing as violations of international law, I did some digging. And the 14.5mm round used in this game is under the classification to make this a cannon, but the rounds loaded in World at War are not the explosive ones. So while this is effective to the point of being over the top, it's not actually a problem according to the laws as they're written. But it is impossible to use it like we are in this game, and its effect on target remains incredibly gross. With a new angle on the Nazi defenses, we continue to support the Russian advance with a lot of accurate, deadly fire focused on machine gunners and Nazis who have the high ground. With the outpost captured, we need to resume our hunting the evil SS general, so it's time for yet another flank and another new angle. We get into position with Overwatch of Amsel's HQ and watch as our allies rush to the defensive line. Also, this German truck bringing in reinforcements bugs out and it killed one of its occupants and it drags them all weird, which I think kind of undercuts the seriousness of what we're doing a little bit. Also, that's another Tiger tank.
General Amsel will soon be in our sight.
We watch as Amsel runs from cover to cover and we pick off his guards as he goes. I considered trying for the achievement of getting the final kill shot with a pistol, but my eyes are old and getting all this gameplay recorded takes enough time as it is. We managed to nail Amsel on a run, and unlike Zakhaev in Call of Duty 4, this guy is not walking that off.
You are a true monster.
That Tiger tank from before finally catches our location and blasts the building, forcing us to once again run away. Reznov gets a canonical kill-tacular here.
Double kill. Kill-tacular.
And with explosives landing all around us, we leap into the Volga River and forward in time. Hey, just a quick shout to let you know that you can access a longer, more detailed version of this episode if you're a member here on YouTube, over on Patreon, or on Ko-fi. Different tiers of support grant access to exclusive content and updates about what we're working on next. Whether you're a directly supporting member on those platforms or if you are just enjoying the content here on YouTube, thank you so much for making it possible for me and my team to do what we do. Let's get back to the video. Three years into the future, the Russians are no longer on their back foot and instead are rolling over the Wehrmacht on an aggressive and brutal push into Germany's borders. Our army is assaulting Silo, the last main line of defense, and only around 50 miles from the German capital of Berlin. Once we eliminate the resistance here, the Soviets are on a straight shot to capturing the capital and dethroning Hitler from power. Dmitri continues to be both the luckiest and unluckiest man in the world, as we are once again regaining consciousness surrounded by angry Germans and dead Russians. This guy in the middle is looting our dead comrade, which is a violation of international law. While looting and taking souvenirs has always happened in war, but it does count as violating the dignity of the dead and potentially makes identifying the deceased and informing survivors all the more difficult. We try to grab a nearby rifle, and the Germans are giga dumb for not securing the weapons in the first place, and we get a swift kick in the head before we get saved by sheer luck and are reunited with Reznov once again.
Dmitri!
We're also introduced to the game's moral compass in Chernov, who struggles with a direct, and I'll add, a legal order to kill the wounded Nazis rather than take prisoners.
Finish those rats! Chernov! I am not hearing gunshots.
There is no point, Sergeant. They are already bleeding to death.
Then maybe our friend will help them bleed faster.
Now, no sooner do I follow this illegal order than we hear Reznov giving another wild command to burn the German wheat fields, which violates another rule, as destroying things that are indispensable to civilian survival, like food, is a criminal act. There were also apparently Germans hiding in the wheat field who were consumed by the hungry flames of our Molotov cocktails. The Germans are now in full retreat, but as we established in an earlier episode, Chernov's complaints of shooting them in the back don't actually matter, as armed soldiers, even when in retreat, are still threats until they surrender.
Now it is their land, their people, their blood.
Hey, that's the name of the show.
Reznov seems intoxicated with exacting revenge on the Germans and is genuinely gleeful to be taking part in a little bit of reciprocity. We get to choose our path forward Call of Duty 3 style, so, as always, I go a little to the left. German trenches are hastily thrown together. Clearly, they never expected to be pushed so far back within their own country. Forests burn around all of the soldiers in the mud. Chaos abounds as our tanks and soldiers attack the Germans from every angle. The music is fucking dope in this mission, with chugging guitars driving us forward instead of your typical World War II orchestras. We emerge from the trenches into a small farm complex, watching our tanks roll up to fight some panzers. Fortunately, our tanks get knocked out by the panzers and Panzerschreck Nazis, so we steal the weapons and knock out the tanks ourselves. I demolish a guy with a 3-pointer Molotov before he can kill our tanks with his Panzerschreck.
Oh, let's see that again.
Let's see that again!
I don't think we need to see that again. All right, let's see that again.
I clear the farmhouse and kill another Panzer before we regroup with Reznov at the barn.
Dmitri, I see time. I not weaken your aim.
As our squad goes to breach into the barn, another tank bursts from the doors, killing our men, and then we, in turn, kill the tank and its infantry support. This has earned us Reznov's favor, and he lets us ride into the next area on the tank, while also being really mean to Chernov.
Dmitri, ride on one of the tanks. You have earned the rest. Chernov, you have not. You walk.
Poor guy. However, our Uber ride is short-lived, as the tanks can't get past the dragon's teeth or the hedgehogs in the way, so we get back on foot and we get back to killing. We just rage through the German camp. We're like a Soviet Rambo. Our tanks have finally finished their flank and they lay their cannon fire into the retreating Germans. Standing on top of a tank, surrounded by Nazi viscera, Reznov gives us a rousing speech.
From this moment on, every step we take brings us closer to Berlin, closer to victory, closer to revenge.
And we fade into black into the next mission. The Marines are pushing deeper into Peleliu, trying to methodically eliminate Japanese positions that are dug in all over the island. But surely a mission with a name like Burn 'em Out is more illustrative than it is literal, right? Oh. We fall back into Miller's shoes with a tank of napalm already strapped to our back, moving with Roebuck to eliminate a handful of Japanese mortar emplacements that are holding our armor back from advancing. This is a really quick mission overall, but it's gonna be brutal as the game really wants us to use that flamethrower. I did my best to use other conventional weapons just to keep from juicing the count. God damn, does World at War love fire. In fact, World at War loves fire so much that as we move towards the first position, there's another Marine standing fully out of cover, hosing the trench down with his own flamethrower. I clear most of the mortar pit with small arms fire, but I do have to swap to the flamethrower as we push back into an underground portion, as there are just too many enemies in cover who are chipping away at my health. With more horrors of war crackling in front of me, I double the fun and I snag a shotgun and a pile of ammo from the weapon depot before diving back into the tropical glare to sweep the trenches towards the next mortar pit. The Japanese trench layout is diabolical, with like pre-emplaced kill holes around blind corners. It's almost like these things were purpose-built for funneling Marines into them. The unpredictability of the Japanese campaign is clearly getting to me because I start wildly swinging around, checking every tree and corner for signs of movement. But then I have my paranoia instantly validated. Annoyingly though, I forgot that wait, where's my shotgun? Annoyingly though, I forget the Call of Duty shotguns have about as much range as this Nerf one that I bought for the Call of Duty 3 video, so I whiff a ton of buckshot into the ether before moving up where my arsenal is actually effective. I swapped the shotgun for a longer range Arisaka rifle, only to immediately be wishing for a close quarters weapon as I get charged by two bayonet-wielding bushmen. Fortunately, however, my tactically acquired rifle has its own bayonet, and my stabs and iframes are much faster. Despite the shotgun's bad range, it does have more reach than a bayonet, so I swap back just in time to repel another bonsai charge before going back to my sweep and clearing duties. In the next mortar pit, we end up behind a machine gun nest that was killing our men earlier. A jet of flame shoots up the tunnel and cooks off the ammo, destroying the entire bunker. The next section in the trenches is so packed with enemies that I have to hot swap between 3 different guns as I shot through all my ammo. I end up dying, which is a very common occurrence on any difficulty in World at War, and upon reloading the checkpoint, I remember that the flamethrower has unlimited ammo. Finally, after a rough firefight, we step into a larger network of tunnels to be cleared out. On the other side of the tunnel, we find the last mortar pit, and for the sake of risk and time, I pull the flamethrower back out. The mortar pit's finally dealt with, our tanks are free to move up the island to keep pushing the Japanese off of Peleliu.
Good work, Marines.
Getting this far has been tougher than any of us could ever have imagined.
We'll stay with the Marines, pushing back from the scorching rock and airfields and into the jungles of the island. Our job now is to capture the main mountain on the island, which is riddled with tunnels and artillery firing on the beaches.
We take them, and we take Peleliu.
Our surely aching feet get a temporary break from walking, and we ride through the jungle on tanks. Roebuck gives us a rundown that no reinforcements or supplies are landing on the island until that artillery is gone, along with mentions of the various methods being used to force the Japanese out of their caves.
We're trying to flush them out with the dogs, but we all know how stubborn these bastards are.
No sooner do we get told to be careful than our armored column gets hit by mortar and artillery fire, and we dismount back into boots on the ground fighting. No sooner are we caught in the ambush and one of our Marines runs forward and gets snagged on a wombo combo, ripcord, and bomb booby trap. But there's hardly time to dwell on that, with dozens of enemy soldiers to fight as we advance up the hill. The first artillery emplacement is heavily defended, but Roebuck spots a triple 25 Japanese anti-air gun and orders us to turn it from the sky to the ground to shred the surrounding Japanese troops. While the urge to fall into my old ways from the first 2 Call of Duty videos is once again present as I watch limbs and gore fly everywhere, I will confirm that this gun shoots 25mm high explosive ammo, which does classify it as a cannon, and therefore the exploding rounds are permissible under international law to use against infantry. Still gross though. Moving up into the trenches to another anti-air gun emplacement, I stupidly died the classic World at War grenade spam despite being fully behind cover. I reload and I methodically work my way forward, but for once all of the fighting is horrific but normal rather than horrific and against international law. We don't see it happen, but another Marine ends up stepping on a booby trap with a comically long rope and his physics bug out, leaving him swinging wildly through the jungle as we fight. With the first line of defenses cleared, we crest another hill to the main mountain complex while Navy air power rains down bombs on the Japanese emplacements. Battling towards the cave entrance, we get support from another tank with a flamethrower?
Watch the fire! Stay behind the tank!
The fighting to clear the final caves is violent, but it's par for the course at this point. And with the big guns finally silenced, the Navy and Marines can start building up their presence on Peleliu with far less issue.
Call it in.
How many Marines did we lose taking this rock?
Already too many.
Relay the message to Major Gordon. The artillery on the point has been knocked out.
We have lost many brave men, but their sacrifice is not in vain.
Back to the Eastern Front, the Soviets are preparing the final push to break through the defense at Silo Heights. We're flipping the German blitzkrieg on its head, and now, my friends, after not getting any mechanized action in modern warfare, it is time to get tanked. While it strains credulity quite a bit, for some reason both us as Dmitry Pachenko and Sergeant Reznov have been given command of an OT-34 tank to assist in the mechanized assault through the last line of German defenses. I'm stoked to get tanked, but the sudden insertion of a tank level did catch me a little bit off guard. Now, while I won't be counting tank cannon kills as war crimes, I learned my lesson. It immediately becomes obvious that we're a rolling war crime machine regardless, as the OT-34 tank has a flamethrower mounted in place of its typical mounted machine gun.
They will be the first to burn this day! Fire the flamethrower! Incinerate them!
And we quickly put that flamethrower to use, taking out anti-tank troops as we navigate around Dragon's Teeth to eliminate entrenched 88mm cannons. Alternate between lobbing shells at enemy tanks and cannons at a distance and pouring hellfire into the closer German trenches. Reznov remains fully enthralled at the idea of killing Germans en masse and encourages us to move forward quickly so that we can keep using the flamethrower.
We could be burning Germans right now!
Pushing up on a bunker, we make a Saving Private Ryan scene happen at scale as we jet tons of napalm into a bunker, causing the entire structure to blow apart. And now, I know I prematurely spent my Tiger Tank rant on Call of Duty 3, but there is actually, this time, a massive number of Tiger 2s that appear in this level intermixed with other various German armor.
You sure about that? You sure about that?
Our next objective is to take out a German radio tower to sever communications, but first the surrounding infantry needs to be taken out. With a well-placed shot, the radio tower falls and we advance forward to a train station that we will use to funnel tens of thousands of troops further into Germany. Another bunker complex, apparently with a massive shipment of Panzer Schrecks, since every foot soldier seems to have one, falls to a jet of flame. Reznov's callouts confused the hell out of me during this mission, since right at the start, a tank we destroyed wasn't counted by the game as dead, so despite it being hundreds of meters away, he gets super fixated on us killing it.
Behind us!
What?
Another tank! Right to us!
What the hell are you talking about?
From our overlook on a hill, the train station is in sight. We just need to break through one last line of defenses. A random commissar starts screaming about our victory and urging us forward as Soviet planes bomb the enemy tanks. I make a stupidly aggressive push, but since my tank is apparently made out of Wolverine's bones, I'm able to eat about 10 direct hits and then kill 5 opposing tanks before turning my flames on more exposed infantry. Navigating around one last layer of obstacles, we capture the train station.
Comrades! A great victory is ours!
And despite becoming tank aces pretty much out of nowhere, Reznov and I are demoted back to infantrymen and are loaded on the train to Berlin. The mood is almost jovial as Reznov builds the myth of us being an unkillable soldier.
Dmitry Kotrenko, I saw this man cheat death time after time at the siege of Stalingrad. As long as he lives, the heart of this army cannot be broken. He makes us all proud.
Nice work.
Good. Thanks, Dad. Why is everyone staring at me?
The Soviets are now fully pushing into Germany and the capital of Berlin, where the fighting is going to be. Okay, that's another real-life war crime. Where was I? Right. Us, Reznov, and 2 million Soviet troops are hauling ass right for Berlin. The troop train grinds to a halt just outside of Pankow, a massive suburb of Berlin. The commissar then gets a very well-known fact about Hitler's birthday wrong.
On the Führer's birthday, a barrage of Katyusha rockets will tear Berlin to pieces with your bullets, with your bayonets, with your bare hands. Do the same to their wretched soldiers!
The urban fighting, unsurprisingly, is brutal, with Nazi troops positioned and dug in everywhere and keeping our tanks from advancing. We get hit with no less than a dozen Panzerschreck shots, but it's the fall out of a window that sends me back to my last checkpoint. On that checkpoint reload, I try a different flank and I get a better vantage point to focus on Germans in the clock tower, focusing my fire on their anti-tank troops so that we can finally move forward. As we enter the bombed out clock tower, Chernov takes note of unarmed, grievously wounded German soldiers.
Sergeant, there are survivors! And marauded their way through the without mercy. They deserve none in return.
Orders to take no quarter are against international law, even if the situation at hand might actually necessitate it. However, this next vignette is fully heinous. Mirroring the treatment that we saw of Soviet troops in Stalingrad, the Russians line a cluster of surrendered Germans against a wall and gun them down, all while they beg for mercy. Later, a tank pushes a wall in the alley down and the assault continues. Naturally, my assault comes to a sudden end via exploding car, because of course it does. I swing left, as I always do, and I start clearing the courtyard of the next German position. I really love the subtle details that show how much the Wehrmacht is struggling at this stage in the war, with cover and barricades being thrown together from debris rather than more formal military infrastructure like bunkers and sandbags. I suddenly remember that I have Molotovs, and I start a garbage fire before flanking and mag dumping an entire squad of Germans. Papasha supremacy reigns supreme. Papasha supremacy reigns supreme. Papasha supremacy reigns supreme.
Oh. Duh. Of course. Papasha. Okay.
We enter the building through a blown out wall and realize that the German base of operations is an old insane asylum, complete with haunting sound design and ominous bloody handprints all over the walls.
Do you hear something? No. That is why I am suspicious. Move carefully, comrade.
The basement is swarming with enemies, so violent close quarters fighting kicks back up. Further into the building, we start taking fire from Germans on the roof in the courtyard, and despite our initial losses, we eliminate them and force our way even further into this asylum. An MG42 is set up in a murder hole choke point, but a swift Molotov gets rid of it before it can become a major threat. Chilling, ghostly sounds play that supersede even the automatic weapon fire. You know your history, it's not hard to imagine the horrors that people were subjected to in this building, even long before World War II started. Regrouping with the tanks, we are able to clamber up and use the top-mounted machine gun to lay into the Germans as they fall back. Commissar starts talking shit through a megaphone as our violent advance continues, and this mission fades to black. The intro for Eviction does a really great job of speaking to the dire reality for the Germans defending what's left of Berlin. By this point in the war, the only men left to fight for Germany were either wounded, sick, too old, or far too young. The character models won't fully reflect that reality in-game, but I do appreciate the harsh reality at least getting talked about. As we fade in, Reznov and I approach a squad of Russians arguing around a lone, unarmed German soldier who's begging for mercy.
He wants mercy. You do not deserve mercy. What mercy did you show to us to die? Wait. He may help us. He can die for us.
Chernov protests, but only after a gallon of grape juice is poured onto the floor.
This is not war. This is murder.
This is how you end a war, Chernov.
Emerging onto the rooftop, more Katyushas careen overhead, forcing us right back into another building. We creep into a hastily set up German outpost, where a small squad seems to be trying to figure out their path forward while communicating with their army elsewhere in the city via Morse code. We kick off our ambush with a Molotov cocktail.
Take him down quickly. Ready?
And we quickly clear the room from there. Looking out the window, we can see even more fighting going on in the streets below. We descend the stairs only to stumble upon an inverse situation of how this mission opened up, with Germans about to execute a Soviet soldier. But I don't wait to see how it plays out, and I gun the Nazis down myself. Our way forward is blocked by a heavily fortified German machine gun, so we fight and flank above it using a hole in the ceiling to kill the gunner. Descending even lower, this part of the building is on fire with smoke choking the air before we emerge out into the streets of Berlin. The music is a cacophony of chugging guitars as the Soviets tear through the scattered German resistance. Reznov directs the tanks to fire on a building with a handful of machine gun nests in it, and the high explosive rounds are so effective that the entire facade of the building collapses into a cloud of dust, scattering wounded, unconscious Germans throughout the streets, who we are then promptly ordered to execute.
Wipe this scum from the streets! Jenna!
These men are trying to surrender!
Look around you, children!
While we finish up just following orders, Chernov and Reznov are arguing up the street over a handful of surrendering German soldiers who were trying to escape into the subway.
Do you think these men will be denied their revenge? That comes only two ways. Fast or slow. Dmitri, it is your choice.
Here, surrounded by half a dozen men with Molotovs locked and loaded, we're given another moral decision. The good option would be to shoot these surrendering men, which is a war crime. The bad option is to stand by and let your troops burn them to death with gasoline-filled vodka bottles, which is a war crime but with fire. Both of these options are not good, so I hypocritically keep my hands clean of this situation and let the other soldiers commit the sins.
You should have shot them, Chernov. It is only cruel to prolong an animal's suffering.
Reznov admonishes Chernov yet again for hesitating to kill, and we are forced into the same subway the Germans tried to flee by incoming artillery. We battle through the subway station, cross-firing on Germans on both sides of the platform. We then get stuck in knee-deep water at a pile of debris. We suppress the Germans on the other side of the rubble as Reznov struggles to open up a side door. A swarm of rats cascades over the Germans and us, and in the distance in the tunnel, a wall of water rounds the corner. Bodies and debris are swept up in the current and right at us, leaving us on a cliffhanger with a burst of bubbles. While we leave Reznov to doggy paddle in the Berlin subway, we once again shift our attention back to the Pacific theater of war and into what essentially is World at War's obligatory AC-130 mission on the coattails of modern warfare. Supporting the Battle of Okinawa from the Peleliu airfield, the Black Cat Squadron patrols the Pacific in PBY Catalina seaplanes, with their job being a combination of harassing the Japanese Navy and rescuing Americans who were lost at sea. We join the Catalina wine mixer crew mid-flight and begin an attack run on a Japanese merchant fleet.
Open fire!
I was about to do a ton of research on the ethics of a targeted military attack against what is ostensibly a civilian organization, but the game and the wiki make it very quickly and abundantly clear that the civilian vessels have been commandeered by the Japanese military to move men and munitions. So our attack is actually fine, and it's actually the Japanese vessels that are violating international law by not clearly identifying themselves as warships and instead trying to obscure themselves as civilian ships. We make multiple passes, flying low and slow over the ships and their PT boat escorts, shooting soldiers, ammunition, and fuel tanks. Merchant ships secretly had anti-air guns hidden on their decks, and we narrowly miss having our face blown into the atmosphere when a burst of flak hits the floor gun.
Damn, that was close! Lock! Shit! Tell me we've not lost our gunner! He's okay! What the fuck are merchant ships doing with that much firepower? That must be some pretty important cargo they're carrying.
We rally and we take another pass on the ships, flying low and unloading 50 cals across the decks. We've done enough damage now that the ships are completely disabled and listless, but our pilot wants to make sure that we sink the supplies, so we go around for one final pass with the heavy cannons.
I'll take us as close as we can, but we need to wrap this up. This is our last pass.
In no time at all, 3 ships are sinking and destroying the local ecosystem as thousands of gallons of oil and fuel pour into the ocean. Watching the hulls crack in half awakens my Midwest affinity for the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, but alas, DMCA law keeps us from fully indulging in that. So with that done and dusted, it is time to lumber our bullet-ridden planes back to base, especially since our wingman is in even worse shape than we are.
Smoke coming from your #2 engine.
Cages ain't hitting red. We should be able to hold her, as long as we don't run into any more trouble with the enemy.
Oh, hell. Captain, distress call coming in. The fleet's been hit en route to Okinawa.
Okay, well, never mind. It's up to us instead to try and support a portion of the US fleet that has been hit by Japanese air power while we wait for more reinforcements to arrive. It is a good thing that we have unlimited ammo and that all that bullet and explosion damage on our plane is just cosmetic.
This is fine. I'm okay with the events that are unfolding currently.
No sooner are we back in the nose-mounted guns than well over 50 Japanese Zeros cross in front of us. We go full Luke Skywalker mode, shooting down dozens and dozens of incoming fighters.
I got him! I got him!
Right, kid, don't get penisy!
Only for our wingman Harrington to spontaneously combust. With him gone, we are the only ones who can land among the oil-slicked waters of the US fleet, trying to save who we can. As we set down in the water, Japanese kamikazes, now a well-known tactic, fly into the side of a nearby destroyer. We run back to the side-mounted 50 cals as sailors from the sunken ship swim to us under direct, intentional fire from both PT boats and planes. Now, while my country and this turbo dork apparently disagree, directing hostile action and intent at shipwrecked sailors is a major violation of international law. Think of it in the same way as shooting at a pilot who is parachuted out of their downed plane. Those individuals are no longer able to pose a direct threat, and they have protections extended to them. All that being said, I have no idea how to possibly count the number of violations during this sequence of the mission, because we've got a super narrow field of view that's obscured by bullet impacts, seawater spray, explosions, and muzzle flashes. According to the Call of Duty wiki, you can only directly rescue 7 sailors by pulling them aboard the plane, but there's easily 5 times as many men that you see in the water. So I'm going to throw on what seems like a lowball estimate of 35 war crimes with a little chaotic footage while this mission plays. We shift back to the front guns on the plane and shoot at as many Zeros as we can to defend the fleet, while one by one, what used to be infinite ammo guns run dry. With 3 Zeros barreling towards us, our gun also clicks empty just in time for Navy fighters to Deus Ex Machina the Zeros to pieces, saving our lives. At At the end of this mission, I shot down 45 planes, which accounts for almost 4 full squadrons, and I personally also pulled out 5 sailors from the ocean. We managed to take off, and we limp back to the Peleliu airfield as we fade to black.
Taking us home.
Once again, we're heading back into the battle-worn boots of the Marines, months into the brutal fighting on Okinawa. Roebuck gives us a harrowing status report of the conditions for the battle.
Morale is low. It's the rain, sir. And the mud. Tanks are getting bogged down. Supplies aren't getting through. We can't even get the wounded out.
This mission begins with a flamethrower in our hand and torrential rain falling all around us, set to take out a Japanese bunker further up ahead. We try to creep forward only for a bunch of Japanese spider holes to pop open in an ambush where I die almost instantly to a grenade. Reloading the checkpoint, I heed Roebuck's orders from when the grenade went off. So I take the flamethrower and I swing it across the ambush site, killing the men and having the added benefit of burning the grass and reducing the visual cover that the enemy had. The flamethrower becomes less of a weapon and almost more of a utility tool as we move up the hill. Before long, we are approaching the fortifications of the bunker. Amidst the screams of burning men, I flank the machine gun nest and I toss in a satchel charge and destroy it. Behind that bunker is a small cave system that leads us to the next area where we have 3 more bunkers to destroy. We approach the first bunker and kill the surrounding soldiers before sending a jet of flame inside of it.
Miller, throw a satchel charge!
We repeat this process again and again before regrouping with our squad and continuing to push forward to find the main bunker complex with more Marines and tanks. No sooner are we making forward progress than it's halted by mortar fire. With our armor out of the picture, we have to flank the bunker instead. I try going left as I always do, and I die so fast that on reload, I try going right instead, and then I die to grenade spam. Eventually, my flanking actually works, and we get to a portion of the bunker complex that we can actually enter.
Good work, people. The Major's convoy is en route. After this, we'll be on Eagle Street.
The color palette of this mission is the worst that 2008 first-person shooters had to offer, with the vibrance cranked so low it almost feels like black and white, until the orange of the flamethrower breaks through it all. We enter the bunker system through the motor pool, and we start killing the guys inside with rifles, but mostly with the flamethrower. Climb higher and higher in the bunker, stacking dead Japanese Marines behind us as we go to silence the mortar crew.
Outstanding, Marine! Out-fucking-standing! Now let's get out of this damn hole and start dealing with our wounded.
While we carry a guy who surely has a sucking chest wound, we hear Polanski arguing with Major Gordon, who is incredibly dismissive of the issues that we're facing this deep into the fighting on Okinawa, and also moving himself away from the front lines as quickly as possible, but not before telling us that our next mission objective won't have any enemy resistance.
Intel says Shuri Castle is mostly deserted. Look on the bright side. After this, you boys will probably get relieved and be on the boat.
Sure. The Marines' campaign is coming to a close, but first we need to capture the main Japanese base of operations at Shuri Castle. Okinawa was an abysmal, bloody battle with over 12,000 Americans dead, almost 100,000 Japanese killed, and over 150,000 native Okinawans killed in the crossfire or by being coerced into killing themselves by the Japanese forces. All of that fighting that happened here was meant to set the stage for a US invasion of the Japanese home islands, and it was a major indicator of how horrific the losses could be projected at. Breaking Point is a marathon of a mission. My gameplay time clocked in at just under 25 minutes, which is essentially double the length of any of the other missions in World at War. We start on the outskirts of Shuri Castle, running to secure an airdrop since we have literally zero ammo or grenades.
This is all we got. Share it out.
No sooner have we started to re-equip ourselves when a sniper kills the unplot armored marine next to us, and that kicks off the full battle. Mortars shake my screen and make it impossible for me to countersnipe the now expected men in trees, so we run through the defenses and towards the Japanese bunkers.
They zeroed our position pretty damn quick. There must be spotters holed up in the tunnels.
Roebuck thinks that there must be Japanese forward observers directing the mortar fire in the tunnels, so we get a taste of what we'll send our sons to do in Vietnam, and we hop into the tunnel to find the enemy. We can clearly hear voices as we wander deeper into the enemy complex, only to find a handful of officers standing around a map and a radio, seemingly arguing about what to do with our advance. Now, I tried to cook a grenade to blow up right as it lands on the table, but it seems like these guys specifically had a scripted animation to play that keeps them from dying until I hold down left mouse button and we do this the old-fashioned way. We emerge from the tunnel and join the Marine assault while they close the pit behind us with a lot of TNT. No sooner are we staged to push up when a squad of soldiers leaps from their spider holes to bayonet a handful of Marines, including me. The fighting up to the gatehouse of Shuri Castle is chaotic, with men popping out of more spider holes, bayonet charging, and throwing grenades from all over. The gate gives way to the massive castle grounds, littered with enemies and low rock walls perfect for cover and ambushes. Roebuck and Polanski reference the dire supply situation again by talking about running low on ammo and needing to steal and scavenge Japanese weapons. I like the stakes that the developers are trying to establish here, even if it falls a little bit short functionally in the gameplay, as bullets have always been plentiful. Clearly though, the World War II Marine supply chain is nothing in comparison to the modern American military. Clearing the West Building, we get a throwback to the very first level of the game, where I step into a room to find what I think are dead Japanese soldiers on the ground who turn out to be playing dead and trying to trick me. Like we discussed at the start, pretending to be dead to try and carry out a hostile action, you can't do that. Well, technically you can do anything, but there are consequences. While earlier we killed the guys directing the mortar fire, we still need to do the age-old Call of Duty objective and kill those mortar teams.
Have a mortar shell and throw it.
Which we ironically do Saving Private Ryan style by priming their own mortars and throwing them like a forbidden Nerf football.
Dad. That's my boy. What is it? Catch! Oh. Good arm, my boy. Here, catch! Whoa! Aw, shucks. Jeez, Pops, I'm sorry. It went into your war memorabilia closet. No, that's okay. That's okay. It's all right, my boy. It's all right. Don't worry. I'll get it. Hey, look, I found it. Here you go, Dad. Catch. Oh, no, wait.
After a lot of fighting, our Marines start moving into a tunnel system that runs under and into Shuri Castle. And it's in these tunnels that we get a taste of what American air and artillery have done to the castle, as huge portions of this tunnel network are like your uncle's midlife crisis Mazda Miata. It ain't got no roof on it. Before we can close in on a fresh supply drop of weapons and ammo, a small group of Japanese soldiers are surprisingly surrendering.
Polanski, search him.
Roebuck and Polanski move up to secure the surrendering troops, and surprise, surprise, it's a trick. Much like the many instances of enemy troops playing dead to spring ambush, faking a surrender to perform a hostile action is also a form of perfidy and is against the laws of war. We only have the opportunity to save Roebuck or Polanski, and I had a clearer shot on keeping Kiefer from KIA.
Miller! Polanski's down!
Polanski is blown up in a suicide attack, plot armor only managing to keep him physically intact despite the force of the explosion. The Japanese counterattack immediately follows this tricksy trap, and we hold them back with more forbidden Nerf footballs.
It's Nerf, and nothing.
I am dreading playing this level on veteran if I ever get to this point, because it is just insane. We get access to Navy airstrikes, which does help thin out the crowds. And I know I made a Helldivers reference in the last video, but damn, this mission has the exact same energy as getting surrounded by bots on Malevelon Creek and scrambling desperately to try and stay alive long enough just for your stratagems to finish cooldown.
Warning, the following scene from Malevelon Creek contains footage some may find disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
I love you, Coleman.
I'm here.
Wow.
I love you, Nandi.
I love you, Pibba.
I love you, Coleman.
This is the sweetest troop of soldiers ever. I love you.
With the final airstrike finding its mark, we are alive and victorious. Well, except for Polanski.
We did it. It's over. It's finally over.
The war in the Pacific will come to an end later, but thankfully, before a full-scale invasion of Japan was ever carried out. It's time for a final spin back to the Soviets in a much more fleshed out and epic version of something we did all the way back in the first Call of Duty. Assaulting and capturing the Reichstag building.
The Red Army encircles the Reichstag, the parliament building and final stronghold of the fascist Reich.
We're starting to confirm Reznov's myth-making around us as we're alive and being dragged from the flooded metro station. After some encouragement for us, Reznov once again chastises poor Chernov.
Which do you think will lead us home? Writing about this war or fighting it? No one will ever read this. If you lack the stomach to kill for your country, at least show me that you are willing to die for it.
We are tasked with weaving through a flank of buildings to take out any pockets of Germans left before we move on to the Reichstag. As we encounter our first patch of resistance, we can see dead Germans hanging from trees with signs around their necks. During the final days of war and before killing himself, Joseph Goebbels, the skeletal bastard, issued an order that any man not doing his duty to defend Germany should be executed and made an example of. The SS, fearing reprisals and repercussions themselves for, being colossal pieces of shit, wasted tons of time and resources tracking down these so-called cowards and ended up not just hanging men who could be accused of desertion, but also civilians, like women and children. So while the soldier specifically in this tree technically was allowed to be killed for desertion, I will be counting it as a war crime for the sake of the many civilians who suffered needlessly from this wasteful command. We push into the buildings and my Papa-Shah makes short work of the dozens of Nazi troops in the room-to-room clearing. Emerging from the buildings, we run ahead of our tanks and get another quick motivational speech from Reznov.
Today is the day of our glorious for ourselves and for Mother Russia.
Final assault on the Reichstag is starting. Amidst the rubble and ramshackle German fortifications, there are the genuine threats of stacks of 88mm cannons dotted throughout the courtyard. We, naturally, need to take those out before we can move into the capital itself. And despite the fact that I'm pretty sure killing the gun crews and the German soldiers in the surrounding area would do the trick, Reznov insists on total destruction of the guns. So, we shoot them with bazookas, plant dynamite on them without having to do a quick-time event, and generally fight super aggressively through the German defenses, killing a lot of men and eliminating all of the guns. With all the 88s destroyed, it is time to make the final push up the Reichstag stairs Rocky style. Chernov bravely leads the charge, flag in hand, and directly into the path of a German flamethrower, throwing the Soviet flag out of the way to preserve it. Chernov dies slowly, horribly, but at least to Reznov's credit, he does feel some kind of remorse, and he takes Chernov's somehow un-Charnov diary to carry forward.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Compared to the treatment Barone got in Call of Duty 3, I feel like the Reznov-Chernov tension lands so much better. With vengeance fresh in our minds, we charge in to the Reichstag. As we begin the final mission, we are given a highlight reel of our accomplishments, and the game gets a super easy and known fact wrong. Hitler died on April 30th. As we take control of Dmitri again, Chernov's voice narrates one of 3 possible diary entries, a review of how the player is engaged with the very subtle morality system in World at War.
When he first spoke of Dmitri, Reznov told tales of a hero, someone we should all aspire to be like. At times, I have seen him show mercy, but at others act with complete brutality. I do not understand him.
Me neither, buddy. We careen into the grand entrance of the Reichstag, where the remaining SS troops are pushing Soviets into a brutal room-by-room fight, all while Soviet artillery shells the building as well. As we run past the different rooms, we can see Russians fighting the SS in hand-to-hand combat. Another handful of Soviets breaches into a room and guns down a group of surrendering officers. The next hallway gives way to the main governmental chambers, with a huge Reichsadler adorning the back walls. Russians fire into the entrenched Germans. We ascend the stairs to try and get a better angle on the German machine gunners. From a higher vantage point, I hulk out and once again shoulder the 46-pound PTRS rifle, and I vaporize dozens of SS soldiers. The soundscape in this mission is once again a cacophony of gunfire, eerie wailing, and chugging guitars. The music and sound design do so much to heighten the bleak atmosphere in World at War. This doesn't feel cool so much as just grimly inevitable. The Germans send more flamethrowers in to drive us back. But we kill operator after operator. During the chaos of this gameplay, I actually missed Reznov's voice cue to shoot the Reichsadler with a Panzerschreck, which would have stopped the infinite flow of German reinforcements much faster, but luckily an NPC farms the glory from my ignorance. Germans are barring our path deeper into the building, but Reznov barrels through the door and gives the 3th-floor Germans the Inglorious Bastards treatment. We climb higher and higher, hoping to take the roof and plant Chernov's flag for the symbolic glory. We ascend into the arena for one of the better multiplayer maps of World at War just as the dome collapses. Just past this last cluster of die-hard SS, we can see the Nazi flag flying, ready to be taken down forever. With our target in sight, a cluster of rockets pepper the roof over the building. For some reason, the flag bearer is dead behind us, so we grab the flag and we charge towards history. The end is in sight, and suddenly pop goes a Wilhelm who wings us in the arm so bad that our vision goes sepia tone. Reznov cuts the man to pieces with a machete that was invented in the 1990s. And with his encouragement and badass removal of that fascist bullshit,
You always survive.
The honor should be yours.
we plant the flag and triumphantly end the war in Europe.
As long as you live, the heart of this army can never be broken.
Things will change, my friend. As heroes, we will return to Russia's embrace.
Archival footage and a speech from Harry Truman wraps up the events of the war in the Pacific with the dropping of nuclear bombs on the civilian populations of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I've spoken at length already about the use of nuclear weapons in war, and I've even calculated the havoc wreaked by the one in Call of Duty 4. Arguments can be made 1,000 different ways about if employing nuclear weapons was the right call or necessary to get Imperial Japan to capitulate. But you're going to be hard-pressed to convince me or most people that civilians should have borne the entirety of the suffering needed to usher in the atomic age. And with that, my friends, we are fully, finally, and totally done with World that... What the hell? Wait a minute. What the hell is that? Whoa. Okay, I don't have time to dive into the Nazi obsessions with pseudoscience, the occult, and the horrific medical experiments right now. That is what we have a Patreon for. Members of the $5 tier get access to extended episodes that offer deeper dives into the games and their history, and that support lets me and my team devote more time to making better videos faster. Anyways, Modern Warfare 2 is up next as we work through our chronological releases. Please leave a comment about which game you're most excited to see featured, Call of Duty or otherwise. But please, English only. No Russian. If you need a refresher on what's happened in Modern Warfare or this series at large, go ahead and watch this video next. Be kind and do good, gamers. See you in the next one.